We're asking the questions that are leading us to how did we learn to listen? How did we learn to listen when we're reading? How did we learn to listen when we are hearing people speak? Are we truly listening? Or are we busy thinking about the thoughts that we already have in our brains and we're not hearing a damn thing that's being said? So now what you are suggesting, and it's a good suggestion, based on what you said, what she did was she brought in this whole thing about the subliminal projection that Congress said should be outlawed. That's what they said in Congress. Now at the same time, and I think not long after that, they even went into the fact that they said that the Rolling Stones or one of the bands had actually put some music together where when you played the music,
Backwards. That was the Beatles, the White Album.
all of a sudden there was something else that had been placed onto the record. Now understand something. We're busy talking about how wrong these things were for them to do, but we're not busy learning how to do what is necessary in order to protect ourselves. In other words, I asked you, what class did you go to that taught you how to listen? You said to me, well, this teacher that was doing the lecture, what they said to you, they told you to listen to what they were saying, right? Did they tell you how you listen? Who told you how to listen, Ivy? How did yourself notice?
Notice how to listen?
How did yourself come upon the knowledge about how to listen?
Well, you hear stuff, sounds,
Okay,
and you become attentive to some of them.
right. But I'm saying, what guidance did you have from anywhere that actually helped you to learn what it is that you need to learn to make you be able to do and accomplish with a greater capacity?
I
Yes.
suggest it's natural.
Hold on.
I can mention that I've read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, is that many of us, when we engage in conversation, we're busy formulating what we're going to say next.
Yes, yes.
So we don't really hear that person.
Is that something?
Yes, yes.
So now you're saying that that's called listening with an agenda.
Waiting to talk.
Prepare a response. Prepare a
question.
response.
Okay. Oh, your question. You were saying.
Okay, going back to the question that you asked Ivy, how did she learn to listen? I said, or I think that it's natural. And the reason why I say it's natural is because that's how most of us learn the language. That's how most of us learn to speak. So it's in us when we are born to pay attention, to learn the language, to learn how to speak based on the behaviors that go along with the words that we hear.
Okay, and you're probably right. It probably is a natural capacity in most folks that allow them to do this. Do you think the average person is using that natural capacity?
I would say after infancy, probably not.
After infancy? Probably not. Hold on. You.
My question is, so in order to listen properly, what I'm hearing you say is, and I might be wrong, but I just want to put it out there. In order to listen, you have to have a clear mind or an empty mind.
How about this? First of all, he just said something about we might have to get rid of the agendas that we come to the table with to actually listen to whatever it is that we're hearing.
So you want to be neutral.
Is that what you're saying?
No, you got, like you just said, you gotta get rid of the agendas. Like you said, come with a clear mind, so to speak. So just come to listen.
Predisposition?
Get rid of
Or an
the
observer.
disposition.
An observer.
Observe, yeah. If you look just say to be informed.
Look, if you look at what word?
Listen,
Wait a minute, you mean to tell me you looked it up?
yeah.
When?
I mean, we talked about it a long
Well,
time ago.
isn't this something? How many of us looked the word up?
I haven't, I just looked it up now.
No, that's not what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
okay.
See, what I'm talking about is we will have a major discussion about something,
Right.
and we'll have never bothered to look it up. Well, how are we doing that? Come on, somebody tell me that. I need
We're
to
just
know.
guessing, we haven't looked it up. We're
Why
guessing.
would we guess?
Because I think we've been taught to guess.
Oh, we've been taught to guess.
Think we know.
We think we know. So do you think that we're listening when we're not?
Yes.
So then maybe, just maybe, we could probably start accomplishing a lot of the things that we're not accomplishing if we would just practice just one thing, just practice listening. So now, what are some suggestions so that we can start actually this week practicing listening, actually listening? Somebody who wants to give me a suggestion?
I have a suggestion. I know for me, it's number one, I could take a breath. And I could get rid of the agenda and not be so quick to form a response, even in so-called touchy things. For instance, if you watch CNN and there's a so-called debate, and they're not really hearing each other, they're not answering a question, they're responding to a question. You know, politicians are good at it. Why didn't you so-and-so? They'll respond, but they don't really
All right,
answer.
so right now, if you were to suggest something to Daniel and Farrah Joy about how to listen, what would you suggest to them?
I think the first thing I would say is I would take a breath and calm myself, a calming breath to prepare myself
so
to
you're
be
gonna-
in
you're
a
gonna-
state to listen.
You're
to
gonna
me.
get Farrah Joy to actually pay attention to what you're talking about. Have you ever tried that, Miss Pam? To get your daughter to pay attention to what you're saying when you tell her to take a breath before she tries to say anything or think about it or whatever. Have you ever tried to do that?
No, but I try to get her attention.
You try to get her, does she listen
Sometimes
to you?
I can get her attention.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is she listening to you right now?
Of course she's listening to me.
Do you know what your mama's saying? So you know what, she just looked at me, had a linear discussion with me just now. Now, how was that possible? How was that possible?
She's doing
She's
two
conscious.
things at the same time.
So she's actually listening and doing something else all at the same time.
Yes, sir.
But now, how is it that you're sitting in the classroom with nothing else in front of you? You ain't thinking about anything else, but you don't hear what's coming out of the teacher's mouth. How is that possible? Does that happen to you?
Sometimes.
All the time.
Oh, now.
All the time.
Wait a minute.
All the
He
time.
just heard what I said. And I wasn't even talking to him. And he just heard. How did he do that? How did he do that? He's listening about that. Why is he listening about that? What?
It might ring a bell of interest in him.
Why is it interesting him?
He's probably heard it before, that he's not listening.
Oh, but he just heard this that we were talking about just then. The interest is because you've watched him actually engage himself in some of these processes that we're talking about, where he's not paying attention to what the teacher's saying,
Correct.
or what you're saying, or what's going on.
All the above.
Really? Oh, okay, all right. So, but you do pay attention though, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
So you're listening in school. So everything comes out of the teacher's mouth, or everything that comes up out of the book when you read the book, you got it.
If it's of interest to me.
Well, what do you mean, kind of? Tell me what you're saying now. Do you have it or not?
Kind of. Some things.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When you're reading the book, do you understand what you're looking at? Well, if you understand what you're looking at when you're reading, now you can listen to the author.
Mm.
Now you can listen to what the author is transmitting in the written word. You understand? Even though no sounds are coming out, you actually listening.
Mm.
Have you ever been reading and nothing came to you from what was written there?
Yep.
Why?
It wasn't of interest for one thing. It didn't make
Why
sense.
wasn't it of interest and why didn't it make sense?
Maybe with the way he was projecting it, the words he was using were not in an interesting form. Or
Why wasn't it interesting?
it should be interesting to me
But why was it not interesting?
because he could have been lying, or it could not have been the truth.
That's an assumption.
You know what I'm saying? I'm weighing as I read.
Well, I know for me, sometimes I couldn't understand the words.
Oh, you just said the magic thing. What did he say?
Didn't understand.
Could not understand. And you can't hear what's coming from the book if you do not understand what you're looking at. Matter of fact,
You made a statement to me last night or this morning about said you can't hear something unless
if you've never been introduced to it before, you have no way of knowing that you've never, and all of a sudden, it comes out from a movie, from the TV, that you can't hear it.
Cause you don't understand it.
I guess it's because you don't understand it.
You can't
But the
project.
minute you actually focus well enough to where you hear that, now all of a sudden you'll hear it every day.
I agree. Because I learn a new word, and all of a sudden I hear it every day. Or see a new
But you
somebody.
didn't hear it prior to you learning that.
Yes.
Prior to you actually allowing yourself to see this, you didn't see it and it was in your face all the time.
Right.
This is weird.
It is.
And yet we have people arguing with each other, and they're arguing about something they don't have a clue about. They don't have, but based on what they understand, to the degree that they understand this,
So you need some.
they think that their argument is substantial. In other words, they don't have enough information to understand what's actually being talked about. But based on what they do think they understand, they think that they have a substantial argument. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And that causes us a problem. And I'm also suggesting that we're not really listening half the time to what's actually taking place. One of the problems that we're having with our studies is we don't understand a lot of what we're hearing. So when we don't listen. You listen, you're really trying to get it. You just don't understand. So it just comes in one ear and goes out of what? So how do we get it to stick in there when it comes in? We have to make ourselves familiar. So now, wait a minute. You, who was the 21st President of the United States? Who was the 21st President? What? Chester A. Arthur. Now, he did it rather quickly, didn't he? Why? Could you have done that 6 months ago?
No, sir, I could not.
Matter of fact, he would have heard the name and it wouldn't have even registered with him. Why not? And why is he doing it now?
No familiarity.
Why is he doing it now?
Practice.
Familiar.
Why is he familiar?
Because he's been doing the work practice.
So he focuses. And once you focus, you can actually hear. So I think earlier she was saying something about awareness. So we actually have to become aware.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to get Gregory to be aware of the fact that he's playing with his intellect. And now he's serious because he comes here because he wants to learn. Don't you, Henry? You do want to learn, don't you? Okay, well, how come you don't come sometime?
The last time I didn't come, my grandma was sure they picked me
Oh, your grandma went there to pick you up. Isn't that moving just some, the bus wasn't running. You know, you couldn't get a bicycle. Your grandma wasn't picking you up. You have to do it while you don't eat too, ain't because grandma don't pick you up. Right? Huh? Okay, well, how about when the class was at grandma's house and you wasn't there? Same thing, grandma didn't pick me up? Boy, y'all got it easy nowadays. You ain't got to do nothing except wait on grandma come get you. Huh?
Question.
Yeah.
But he intervenes when it's time to eat if she doesn't feed him. I'm asking the question.
He's asking you a question, Gregory. Did you hear the question? He frowned, so
Do
he
you
understood.
intervene if the food is tardy or late or, you know, it's not what you want?
He wants to know, do you say something to your grandmama when the food ain't ready?
No.
You don't say, where the food?
No.
What we having for dinner? Daniel, if the food is not there when you get hungry, what do you say? What do you say? Do you notice when the food ain't ready?
No.
You don't even notice.
I got another question. If you don't get fed for, say, 3 days, if you were in a situation where she didn't feed you for 3 days, would you say anything? Or would you call a neighbor or another relative or friend? Would you intervene? Would you do something to change it?
Gregory, I think he's asking you a question.
Right.
Did you understand the question? I can't hear
He
you.
said he
What?
would find something to eat.
Oh, you would find something to eat.
So if you would find something to eat, if you wanted to get to class, if you weren't provided with transportation and you really wanted to eat or get to class, you would find another way or do something to make yourself get to class. Like if it's real cold outside, you have to go outdoors and it's raining, do you just go out there in the weather? You try to provide some protection for yourself before you go out if it's cold and wet? Or would you just... Well, the class is protection, I think is what the doctor's trying to teach us. Is the class is your protection in the future, now and in the future. And if you don't get this protection now, you're going to be exposed to some very radical things in the future that you're not going to like.
I'm glad you said that. You give me the process to learn the presidents from 21 to 30. You're gonna make a mnemonic sentence for what?
The presidents, no, 21 to 30.
Okay.
presidents.
Huh?
The presidents that are 21 to 30.
Yes. Okay. All right. What's the sentence? Did you make up a sentence? Wait a minute. Wait. You said not yet. Do you mean to tell me you got that much stuff you're doing at school that you haven't been able to? It's exam time. Okay, now, why am I trying to get you to learn the stuff that I'm trying to get you to learn? So that when you come to exam time, guess what gets to be easy for you to accomplish? The exams. But for some reason, now this is weird, this is weird. We won't take it seriously about doing and learning these things that we need to learn, that we need to do. And then exam time comes, and we don't know how to do this, and then we fail. But you're not going to fail, right? Okay, so what are the questions they're going to ask you on the exam?
Watch your hand.
You're not angry, are you?
No.
No, okay. Okay. Ms. Fairjoy. Ms. Farrah, are you gonna listen to your mother? No, we together, girl. What? Which exam do you think you might have a problem on? Which one?
AP Human Geography.
Anatomy and physiology?
AP Human Geography.
What's AB?
Advanced placement.
Advanced placement, what?
I've never heard of it.
Advanced placement geography.
Placement, human geography.
Okay, yeah, so tell me, I won't understand you. I'm listening, girl.
It's a class about, the study of why people populate somewhere and about the population in the general.
And the
Hold on, baby.
Cultural anthropology?
Let me ask you a question. This one should be easy for you to answer, I'm sure. Everybody here should be able to answer this one. How did so many so-called black people get to Houston, Texas? What?
Lady majority now.
2005 in August.
Right.
Oh, you think that's what happened?
No.
There've been a large number of black people in Houston, Texas for quite some time.
That's right.
How did they get there? Jobs? What jobs?
The oil industry.
How did they get? Okay, no problem. Oh, Al just said the oil industry. Now, how old is the oil industry?
1800s, late
I would bet you that the population in Houston, relative to the time and the numbers of the overall population of the United States of America, said that there was a large Negro population in Houston. How did they get there?
Here's a hand back here.
I would say because it's a free state.
What was a free state?
Texas.
It was not a state. Texas was a country. It was a territory before it was a country. It was Mexico. And yet someone fought Mexico for it to establish a country. But when it became the country, and then later an American territory, was it a free place?
Yes.
It was established as a free place. Well, then that would be a reason that so-called black people would be there.
Then
So how did they get there?
they escape
Escape what? Where?
slavery.
Slavery, no problem. If that's what you want to say, I'll go for that, you know, but I hope you don't tell your children that they escaped slavery. I hope you figure out some other word to use so that your children don't think that that word has anything to do with them. If you constantly do that, I am telling you, you will teach your children how to fail. All right, so now, they escaped some incarceration somewhere, right?
A concentration.
Some bondage somewhere,
Right.
some oppression somewhere. Where?
Louisiana,
Louisiana was one place. Mississippi was another one.
Georgia,
Alabama.
Carolina, South
Okay, now, when they escaped, how did they do it? When did they do it? How many wagon trains were formed? Who actually escorted them? How many people? Oh, Bucking the Preacher was one time. Oh, who said that? That was one time. Where were they going in Bucking the Preacher?
West.
Mexico.
West.
They were trying to get all the way out to Oregon. As a matter of fact, where they coming from? Ah, who was chasing them?
Where were they coming from? What you say?
He said he didn't know.
I don't know what it's called, reconstruction. Is that even taken?
See, you have to really pay attention to the movie and listen.
You still have that movie?
You ready to pay attention now?
Who's got the computer? Look at it.
All right. So now what we want to figure out, they were escaping from Louisiana. All right. That's where they were escaping from. Now, they're headed west. And if they're escaping from Louisiana and they're headed west, what do they have to go through 9 times out of 10?
Texas.
Texas. Now we're starting to get there. Now, this oil industry that you were talking about, that they found in Texas, is that right? Did they find the oil industry, found the oil industry in Texas? the inception of the oil industry was in Texas.
Indiana.
I thought it was Oklahoma.
No. I thought it was Pennsylvania.
It was Titusville, Pennsylvania. What year?
It was in the 1800s.
What year? 1859. 1859. What happened shortly after the petroleum industry is founded in Titusville, Pennsylvania? Shortly thereafter, they elect Abraham Lincoln to become president of the United States. We need to understand that, how that happened and why it happened. And I think if we understand how black folks got to Texas, and it wasn't because of the oil industry. As a matter of fact, who owned a great deal of the land in Oklahoma and Texas when the oil industry jumped off?
Oh, it was
African American.
Rockefeller didn't own any land.
African American.
Rockefeller owned absolutely no land, none whatsoever. What y'all call African Americans owned quite a bit of land in both Texas and Oklahoma, but also the people who were already indigenous to the area before it became America owned quite a bit of land, and it was all on their land.
So the union.
Where are the records? The records are in FBI files. They are there. They can be found. All you have to do is look. You will not find it in the social studies book. All right? Now, once you start asking questions like, how did all those people wind up in Houston? Because I remember when I was down there and I was at the 3rd Ward, and I looked around and I said,
Darn.
where did all this? Wow! How did they get here? I mean, Texas is inside the country. It's way down in the country. How did they get down there? That's weird.
Houston toward the bottom.
Until we had the discussion the other day, I always thought it was because cotton, but only when I went down there, I didn't see any cotton.
Ain't
So I
that
couldn't
something?
figure out,
Ain't that something?
what was they doing down here then?
And the majority of the cotton, I think, was coming out of this area.
Yeah, they did,
Didn't
I mean,
they?
but I
Yeah,
thought they had it all the
Mississippi.
way over to Texas.
Yeah, but see, now we gotta figure out how so many of y'all wound up in Texas and Oklahoma. And then, you know how y'all all the time tell me they dropped the bomb. They dropped the bomb on y'all down there. Don't they talk about that all the time? But they can't tell me why. How it happened, what happened,
They dropped it on Black Wall Street.
why? Who did it, what happened?
I assume the powers that
Oh,
be.
you assume.
Well, I don't know what to call them.
You know, see, this is all I'm telling y'all. I really do, I think that our children, in order to get this right next time, so they don't be going on here begging and politicking, talking about giving school systems away and begging for civil rights and everything, I think they're gonna have to really know this stuff. I think they're gonna have to know why.
Greed for one.
Who?
I say greed.
Greed. You mean that's why they dropped the bomb on these people? Greed.
Yes,
What?
ma'am.
I would say because they own a lot of the banks and most of the property
You tell them to black folks. What's the town?
in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, but see, Tulsa's the overall place. I think the little place is called Greenwood. And I'm almost sure
Black
that when you say Black Wall Street, what are you talking about?
That's what they call that area.
What happened?
Well, they had something that I saw from the film that blacks were loaning money to whites.
What happened? Because I am suggesting
What kicked it?
there was a guy by the name of Chief Alfred Sam. He was in New York. And in New York, I think that's where Wall Street was. But you know, here's the funny thing about Wall Street. They wouldn't give y'all licenses to actually practice buying stock nor selling stock on Wall Street. And so here was some people smart enough to put their own investment houses together and to actually come up with a way to secure the stock and shares. Because what is your most precious right in the United States of America? It is the right to buy public companies. It is the right to buy shares in public companies. Now, I know when they were teaching you about civil rights, they taught you about that one. Did they not?
Never come up.
Isn't that something? And so now what I'm hoping is I'm hoping you pay attention, you learn how to pay attention, you learn how to listen, and we learn the stock market, and we get ready to start investing money in one of the things that's actually making money every day. Are you following me? If these people could do that then, why can't you do it now?
Divisiveness, for one.
Divisiveness? What are you divided by? The only thing that you have to worry about coming together with is sitting next to you on your right side of you. So how can you be divided from them two?
Not them, but
But what?
But from, I would say, or even trying to find like-minded people with the same.
You don't have to find like-minded people. Like-minded people will find you. Yeah, you don't have to find them. They're gonna find you.
That's right.
Yeah, and if you like-minded people, y'all won't have arguments and divisiveness. If you like-minded.
Thank you.
If you like-minded. So now, how about this? Since there seems to be an impediment in so-called black people that keeps them from actually allowing themselves to do anything with each other, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with that little one over there, and that little one over there, and that little one back there, and these little ones here. And we're gonna help them to I forgot you did my girl. The little one back there. And we're gonna help them to see how we can accomplish something by just Daniel. I'm so happy that you're involved. Hey, how much did you make tonight? How much money did you make? $2. And so if Daniel can make $4 next time, and he didn't get enough money to invest, didn't you say you was gonna take the kids to one of the auctions? And if they got $5, $10 between them, and if enough of the kids go, and it all adds up to $50, is it a way that you might be able to auction or bid that $50 for them, and you would represent them as a group?
We can find out how that works.
You might even start an investment club with the kids, a kids investment club.
So
Something.
it has a hand ring.
Yes, so.
Whoa.
No kidding?
Whoa.
Well, you ought to be able to beat on your own house, Steve. $25. Yeah, we gotta get you in position. But here's the point. In a minute, we don't have to worry about division. With a bunch of, you know why y'all having division right now? Because you got to be Amaguduba. And you, what is it? Why you laughing? Tell me why you laughing. Why you laughing? Tell me.
I just know what you're talking
You think I got a sense of humor? What do you mean since I got a sense of humor? You know what I'm talking, what am I talking about?
Well, you know, people start learning stuff and then go and change their name and, you know. They
You mean the minute you become Ababaduba or somebody, then all of a sudden we get divisiveness. Is that what's going on? You said, no, wait. He says, no, it's not what's going on. Well, tell us what's happening there.
I think the concept of thinking that we all need to be unified is something that is pretty hard to do.
It probably is hard to do. I don't doubt that it is, but now understand something. I think that as hard as it is to do, that we in this room here can get this done.
That's right.
That's what I think. Yeah, but he started out saying that one of the problems is divisiveness. Now, I'm suggesting
For the
that
majority,
from a what?
I said for the majority.
The majority.